Just what YouTube needs. Another dude with a music production channel. Well, listen to this.
Show me another way. Show me another way. Show me another way.
Let's go dissect this mix from the bottom to the top, starting with drums. Let's go.
Show me another way.
Please like and subscribe.
If you're watching this video, I'm going to presume that you've got a little bit of experience under your belt. This is an intermediate video. I don't go into basics. There's lots of videos out there that do. The drums in this song are from a library, so they're very clean. There's no bleed to deal with, so we won't be getting into gating or noise reduction or any of that sort of thing. Also, this is one of my tunes that I'm working on. It's just about done. I'll share it with you when it's finished. And I would like to say that what I'm showing you guys here is my way of mixing. It's not the only way to mix. There's a million ways to mix, so don't take this as me saying this is how things are done. Everybody has their own ways of getting to the finish line. These are mine. So enjoy. So first things first, let's hear this drum kit with everything engaged. This is all the plugins and effects engaged. And here it is with every effect off. So you can hear there's quite a difference. With all the effects in, it's bigger, punchier, louder. You can hear all the detail of everything. So let me show you how I did that. Let's go through our channels and one by one and talk about things. So in this case, for this kind of music, this is a bigger kind of girthy, spacey rock song. You want everything in your face all the time. And the way we do that is we build out each component of our kit, right? So let's start with the kick drum because that's the best place to start. Here's the kick that came with the kit. Now this kit is from a virtual library, Stephen Slate. I can't remember which kit it is. This is the kick drum that came with it. This is all bypassed now. All the effects are still bypassed. So that's pretty nice, but I added a second kick to it. It's this one. So that is a kick sample from something else, and it's being triggered by software so that both kicks play at the same time, like so. Just giving me a little more of what I want, a little more body, a little more sort of sub. Though it's not actually sub, but low bass. With stuff like this, you want to build out. It takes a little time to find the right samples that are going to go together, but it's worth it because it's in this day and age. What we're used to hearing is usually more than one kick drum or snare drum or toms or whatever. It's usually in this kind of music in particular a stack. So what we're all used to hearing now is that sort of thing. So I often do this, but it is genre specific. For something folky or lighter rock, I wouldn't always do this. So now I have a kick reverb. I will enable that here. And I took one of these kick tracks and put it on this channel. This isn't the usual way I do things. I would usually set up a send and send the signal from our kick drum to that reverb. But in this case, I knew that I was only going to use this reverb for this kick drum. So I made a channel and I just put one of the kick tracks on there. It's best to keep your reverbs simple and clean. So I just decided to put one of the kick tracks on there, not two. That's just adding a little depth, a little room there. Let's move on to the snares. again, now I have the original snare track here. This is what came with the slate kit. It's nice, it's crisp, but I wanted some more body in there, so I added this snare. Has a little more crack to it, and I added this snare. It's sort of got that woody in-your-face thing. And then I added this. I did the same thing with the reverb trick here. So I have one of the snare tracks going to our reverb. It sounds like this. So if I play 4 of those together, it sounds like this. Now again, this is with all effects bypassed except that reverb. And you'll see I have EQ on the channels as well with the reverbs. So on the snare verb, I'm taking out a little bit of 200 hertz because it tends to build up down there. And on the kick verb, I'm taking out, so I got a low pass and a high pass here. I'm taking out some of the lows and some of the highs generally. This will change depending on your samples and recordings you're using. So let's visit our toms here. Here's our toms. Let's go to a place where they're playing. That's dry, and this is with the effects I have on them, which we'll get to in a second. So what I have going here is a compressor. This Universal Audio 175B. That brings out, again, the body, the detail, some of the room. Again, a rock song like this, everything, it's a wall of sound. Everything's going to be pasted to the front of the speakers. So you need everything to really, if the volume of something drops a little, it's going to get lost. So you need everything really squished. Now let's go to our overheads. Sounds like this. Pretty nice natural sounding overheads. I have an EQ on there. It's the Brainworks SSL 4000G series EQ. I love this guy. And I have 8.8 decibels at 7K boosted up. Now, why would I do this when those overheads sound fine on their own? Because there's going to be vocals, there's going to be guitars, there's going to be other stuff competing with the high end. So I felt like I needed to push the high end on those cymbals to get them through the mix. Let's look at our room mics. So we have this guy here. We have this guy here. I believe I processed that through a convolution reverb. Convolution reverbs tend to sound a little more realistic than algorithmic reverbs. So then we have this. That's right out of the sample library. That's a smaller room. And then I have this track, which I love. This is a Mixwave Mike Mangini kit. And what I do is I trigger the kick and snare in that library from the Slate library because I love this room. So I solo the room mic in the Mike Mangini library and I just trigger the kick and snare and it gives me this. And all together they sound like this. And the effects I have on these, let's see. So room 1, there's an EQ that's doing nothing. Room 2, an EQ that's doing nothing. Room 3, an EQ that's doing nothing. On the Mangini track, I have an EQ that is doing nothing, and I have a compressor. So that's doing this. Now you can hear that that's sort of pumping and breathing. It's a bit of an ugly sounding compression going on there, but in the context of the whole thing, it doesn't matter. I'm just trying to bring out some of the details of the room. some of the splashback from the back walls and stuff. So it's fine. I liked how that sounded in context. Everything in mixing is about context. So let's go back to our kick drum and see what effects we got going on here. We've got an EQ doing nothing on the first one, an EQ doing nothing on the second one, and I've already shown you the reverb channel. So let's go over to our kick bus. So these 3 kick channels are going to a bus. That means they're all being routed to a singular channel where I can treat them again as a singular sound. So let me show you what that sounds like. Here's our kick drums all together as one sound. Nice. Sounds natural. It sounds cohesive. What you want to do too with kicks and snares when you're aligning things, you can get plugins that will do phase alignment for you, and they're great. But sometimes with kick drums and snare drums, you don't want everything exactly lined up. You want to go in and manually move stuff around. You can see that, so this is our reverb track. This is the actual same file as this, so we'll ignore that. But you can see that this kick and this kick don't start at the same time. And the reason is because they didn't sound as good. When I moved this guy around a little bit, it sounded better starting a little bit late. So you want to get in and do that with your kick and snare. It's pretty important. So let's hear what our effects are doing to our kick. Here's our kick again, dry. And here's with our effects engaged. Hear that? Everything is more to the wall and in front. Let's have a look at what we got going on here. We've got this Universal Audio API channel strip. I love this guy. He sounds excellent. I am boosting about 2 dB at 50 Hertz just to bring out some of that low, and that's it. Next, we have this M-Juck compressor by Klanghelm. I don't think I'm saying that right. I've heard people pronounce it differently. I can't remember how they say it. I love this compressor. Just listen, I will put this in bypass and I will play it for you straight. So this is bypassed. And this is in. You can see we have a slower attack time and a fast recovery. That's letting some of the transient through, so we still get that smack, but it's then jumping on it and bringing out all the background. I love it. This thing is very versatile. Then we have an EQ. This is a stock Reaper EQ. We're taking out some, 136, some 268, some 613. All these numbers are approximate. I just move these things around until they sound good and then leave them. All right, so we're doing basically a happy face EQ here. We're doing taking out a bunch of the mids because you want your kick to be mostly lows and highs. And then I have the Transgressor 3, which is a plugin I love. This allows me to bump up a little more low end just on the transient of the kick drum and take out a little low end on the tail. So that's sort of a newer thing that people do. It's not, if you went back to the 70s, people weren't doing that sort of thing. But we can do it now, so why not? So here's our kick drum again, fully processed. Sounds good to me. So let's go to our snares. Here's our snare drum tracks all together being treated as one sound. Now let's hear that with our effects in. You can hear all the room. You can hear the snares on the bottom of the snare drum rattling. You can hear the body of the snare drum. Let me show you how we do that. So out of our 4 snare drum tracks here, I take 3 of them. I take the 2 samples and the reverb, and I route them to a channel that I call snare squish or snare smash. And that is this channel here. Again, I'm using this M-Juck compressor. And an EQ that's doing nothing. So that's basically kind of destroying the snare drums. It sounds like this. It's really squatting the life out of them. And there's some transient left in there, but I like a little more transient. So I saved my original snare and I routed it directly to our snare bus. bypassing our snare smash bus, just to give me a little more transient. So let's look at our snare bus. What do we got here? We've got this nonlinear processor. This is a Reaper thing. It just adds a little bit of chaos. It's very subtle. It sort of emulates what analog equipment does. You know, it's nonlinearities. That means sort of unpredictable things happen. Kind of like what tape would sound like. It's hard to explain without. You could make a whole video about that. It's it just does something subtle. It warms it up a little. I really like what that does to snares. Next, I have our Stephen Slate distressor, the FG Stress. This is a compressor, taking 4 or 5 dB off of our snare. And next in line, I have our Universal Audio 176. That is taking another 2 or 3 dB off of our snare. Now, why would I compress a snare drum so much, you wonder? Oftentimes, you use a compressor even when you're happy with the dynamics of something, because compressors tend to just do something to the sound. It's hard to explain. And you just go, well, it sounds better. I'm going to leave it there. I think I've seen Chris Lord-Alge take a signal that's been limited already and put it through another compressor because that signal didn't need to be dynamically shaped anymore, but he just liked the sound of what that compressor was doing to it. Same sort of things happening here. Okay, so next in line, we have our Brainworks 4000G plugin again, and there's no actual EQ happening, but I'm using the total harmonic distortion here for a little saturation on the snare, just because I like the sound of it. A lot of this stuff, guys, comes down to experimentation. And with experience, you'll come to know what you like, what you don't like. And I mean, there's no real final recipe for this. I won't do this the same way twice. It's as needed. So next I have a clipper. This is the K-Clip 0 by Kazrog. And this sort of distorts things a bit. It takes the very, very quick transient off. I'll just bypass this and put it in. Now in. Now if I put this in Delta solo, you can hear exactly what's being removed from that snare. It sounds like this. So that's basically taking out that first little electrical spike. And it will enable us to make our mix louder. I'll explain that in another video. But I like the sound of what it does too. It's kind of smushes it in a nice way. It's very subtle. Okay, and now we have another EQ taking out 200 again. That's where things seem to have built up in this snare, and they often do. And then the Transgressor 3 again. Just adding a little bit of 138 hertz to just the attack of the snare. This thing just allows you to sort of do final shaping on things. And that's it for the snare. So just to recap, we have our 3 of our snare tracks, the 2 samples and the reverb going into our snare smash, getting obliterated. The snare smash feeds into the snare channel, and the original snare also feeds into the snare channel, bypassing the smash track. And we get this. Cool. So there's our kick and our snare. That's with everything in. We'll put our toms in there. They show up from time to time. Now, when we add the overheads, what do we get? Let's hear. That's clearly where all our cymbal activity is. Plus, you're getting a little bit of the roomy sound. You know, the shells sound more woody and sort of beefy. And that's all very nice. And let's add in our room tracks. Oh, one thing I forgot to look at. What do we have going on our room track bus? So we have an EQ that's taking out some of the mids. Little little high pass there. Getting rid of some of the murk at the bottom. And we have the CLA Mix Hub plugin by Waves. And on this, I'm taking out some more lows and some mids, 750 hertz, plus another high pass filter here at 67. So I'm just going to bypass these plugins and show you what it sounds like. And with the plugins in, now you might wonder, why put those plugins on there? Those room mics sounded nice with all that low end going on. And you're right, they absolutely do. The reason I do that is because the low end of those rooms was competing with the kick drum channel, and I didn't want that. They were kind of muddy and everything up. So yes, on their own, they sound good. In mixing, you can never just go, oh, this thing sounds so good on its own, I'm going to leave it. It doesn't work that way. You're putting jigsaw pieces of a puzzle together, and you have to lose some things to gain some things. That's just how it works. So let's listen to our entire kit again. This is everything that I've just shown you. Sounds nice, right? But there's another 2 stages to go yet. I know, it's getting crazy. So I like to put my drums and my bass through the same bus and compress them a little bit together, because drums and bass move together. It's nice to tame them together. It's very musical sounding to me. I wouldn't always do this. Again, it's very genre specific. Sometimes you do it, sometimes you don't. So this is our drum and bass bus. You're not going to hear the bass right now, just the drums. It's louder. It's maybe a little crunchier, a little more, got something about it. What do I have going on here? This is True Iron by Kazrog. This is a transformer emulation. This thing's super subtle and super not subtle. You can make it crunchy, or you can make it just, it's kind of like, I don't want to say glue. It's like very fine sandpaper. I will bypass and show you. And now engaged. I don't know if you'll be able to hear that. I don't know if the YouTube encoders are going to hide all the subtleties. This is a very, very subtle one. I use it in several places in my mix. To my ear, it definitely adds something very analog to it all. So next we have another EQ that's doing nothing. And then we have the Universal Audio Neve 33609 plugin. I love this thing for gluing drums and bass together. It's only going to take off a little bit, but let me bypass this. And engaged. Bypass. Engaged. Now again, it's giving us a little bit of a level boost there, but it's definitely, it adds some snap. So our final stage here, guys, is what's happening on our master bus. So this is what we've heard so far. Sounds like this. We're familiar with that now. If I engage the master bus plugins, this is what it sounds like. Again, some level boost there, but let's see what I'm going through. Another instance of True Iron. The mix ratio is down a little bit on this one. We've got our Townhouse bus compressor by Brainworks. Just taking a couple dB off. This emulates the mix compressor, the mix bus compressor on an SSL console. I've got a Shadow Hills mastering compressor by Brainworks here. This is doing almost nothing, but it has a transformer circuit in it, which I like the sound of. Yeah, those needles are barely moving, if they're moving at all. And now I have the Avalon BT747SP compressor by Kazrog again. And this is doing nothing except this very, very high EQ here is, it's 32 kilohertz shelf. I just find it adds a little sheen that I like. So I put it in there on the master. Next, we have our Universal Audio Ampex A2R102 tape. I love this thing. I've tweaked this a bit. You can use any tape machine plug-in you like. They all, well, I shouldn't say they all, but most of them sound great. It adds a little tape compression, which is a natural sort of kind of saturation. It just does a thing. I don't know. I don't want to talk all day about what everything's doing. I've just found what I like, and it evolves, and it will for you too. And finally, I have the ozone limiter from Isotope, and this is just to give me some volume while I'm mixing and to catch any stray peaks. So guys, in closing, I'd like to say a couple of things. You got to think top down when you're doing this. Sometimes maybe even start with your drum bus or your drum and bass bus and your mix bus, and then add things down there. Go to your buses then, and then go to your individual tracks. You don't have to do it that way, but it is good to think top down. You don't want to get too finalized on just a channel and then realize it still has to go through a couple of buses. Also, the plugins you use, there's people out there on YouTube saying this is the best plugin, that's the best plugin. Sure, there's some are better than others, absolutely, but you can mix on anything you have. You don't have to use what I'm using. You don't have to use what anybody else is using. Know the fundamentals of what they're doing and go from there. I use Reaper. The stock plugins from Reaper are amazing. You can do an entire mix with them. You don't need anything else. They're not the prettiest. You know, a lot of plugins sell because they look nice. They sound nice too, but you know, you want to avoid mixing with your eyes, but we all do it. All right, guys, thanks for watching. I hope you tune in for the next one. I'll be getting into bass and maybe some guitars, and it's going to be a laugh.